Are you ready to take bold action and live a life of brilliance? Welcome to the Bold and Brilliant podcast, where women leaders share inspiring stories about daring decisions that shape their businesses, their lives, and their careers. Today, I'm with the fabulous and amazing Elizabeth Ormes. Elizabeth is a licensed clinical professional counselor and the founder of Actualizing Your Best Self, PLLC. With nearly 30 years of clinical experience, including work with the VA and specialized certification in complex trauma, Elizabeth has spent her career helping people unburden themselves from the past to reclaim their future. When working with therapy and coaching clients, Elizabeth's mission is simple: helping you bridge the gap between where you are and your most authentic self. As we talk, you'll hear Elizabeth share her journey of entrepreneurship, including one bold decision that created her path of what was next. Her story of resilience, risk-taking, and transformation will inspire, encourage, and support your personal and professional growth. Please join me in welcoming Elizabeth to the Bold and Brilliant podcast. Elizabeth, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you.
Well, thanks for having me on your podcast, Tracie. I'm excited to be here and to chat with you.
Absolutely. Well, I know, and we've been working on getting together for this for a while, so I'm really thrilled that it's finally taking place and we're going to get this out to the people, because you and I, we've known each other just for under a year. Mm-hmm. We have had a chance to get to know each other through lots of group activities, a few little conversations, but really, I've read your story, but I haven't really heard you speak about it. And I'm really excited to introduce you and your story to people who haven't met you yet. That's the best thing I think about podcasts, is you never know who it's going to reach and who you might get a chance to inspire today. So it's going to be super fun. Are you ready?
I am always ready to talk to you. I love all of the activities that we've been in together, and just feel like I'm sitting down with a bestie over coffee to just chat. So I'm
perfect.
Ready to get started.
Perfect. Same vibe. Same. Okay. So Elizabeth, what I know about you is that you are a therapist, that you've been a therapist for way longer than it seems you can by looking at your face. And that it seems possible by looking at your face. And what I would love to do is have you go back to kind of an origin story. How did you decide that this was for you? And tell us a little bit about your journey of becoming the professional that you are and how you serve the world.
Well, I think my origin story is pretty similar to a lot of therapists, in that I grew up, well, first of all, thank you for saying that I look so young. At 51, I feel like I no longer look that young anymore. But so I am Gen X, and when I was growing up, yay, Gen X, right? Gen X. But when I was growing up, I grew up in a family that you would say was functionally dysfunctional. So, my mom had mental health issues. My younger brother had, behavioral issues. My dad was always working, and then there was me, the quiet oldest
the good
child.
Girl.
The girl keeping it all together, and trying not to cause too many waves. So I went, to college and thought, well, maybe I'll study history, and then maybe I'll study biology or botany, and then, psychology. Oh, better understanding of me and my family, and that would be good. And so I was at the University of Michigan and ended up with a degree in psychology and women's studies. And my father said to me as I'm graduating, "What are you going to do with that?" Not a lot out there for a bachelor's level. So I went on to graduate school pretty quickly.
Yes.
And graduated in 1998 with a master's in counseling psychology and what's called rehabilitation teaching. So I worked with people who are blind and visually impaired. people who with disabilities for the first part of my career. So working on adjustment issues, learning how to adapt and cope with a pretty significant change of life. And that was
So
my,
were
my
you working with people who like lost their vision as adults or as they were older and had to learn how to function in the world? Yeah, that seems like that would be really challenging.
so I'm from Michigan originally, and if you know anything about Michigan, most of the time people show you their hand to show where they're from. But
Yeah.
I was working up in the UP. So I covered half of the Upper Peninsula. I worked with kids who were 14 and up, so they had vision loss at a very young age or were born,
Mm-hmm.
all the way to older adults who lost their vision in their 80s. And so I worked all
Everyone.
ages, all ages. Yeah.
So what would you say then? What so given that it was really like all demographics, right? Young, old, and everyone in between, what would you say was like the hardest challenge that people came up with if they because you
Yep.
assume that someone who's a very young person, like you learn at an early age and kids are resilient and you learn kind of what you need to learn to be able to move through the world. But someone who's already 50 something like you and me, if all of a sudden I lost, and I actually have a friend who in her 60s lost her vision and became legally blind and continues to struggle to have a reduction of her vision. And it was really hard to watch her struggle with how hard it was to accept that
Mm-hmm.
this was her new reality and it wasn't going to get better.
Mm-hmm. So what I didn't realize at the time, being a new person in the field,
Mm,
and what wasn't really clear to a lot of, it wasn't even brought up in the 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 classes and the by my mentors and instructors, was people's mindset, people's
yeah.
understanding. You know, what the philosophy was if you teach them how to adapt, if you teach them, well, you don't have to, yes, you're no longer have your vision, but you can learn to do the same things that you did before. Everything will be fine. But it really starts with a mindset approach. And that's what I've been honing over, my own, like, almost 30 years now. So, career is that how people, like, our core beliefs and how people start off. So it begins with like your parents and what they're teaching you and how well
Mhm.
you can understand that your capabilities and whether you adapt or don't adapt really starts with your
Gratitude.
understanding.
Yeah. Yeah. The resilience and the like kind of grit and growth
Yep.
mindset and all of
Yep.
that kind of stuff. Yeah, that totally makes sense. My friend who struggled so much in her 60s, absolutely resilient mindset and beautiful support system. But I can also imagine people who might be like, why did this happen to me? I'm a good person, or this happened to me because I'm not a good person, or like really blaming themselves for things that were out of their control. That's really challenging. So I bet you had, again, all ages and all of the the breadth of those different kinds of self-talk.
Right. Yeah, so like the young adults that I worked with, a lot of it was whether their parents saw them as capable, and whether they saw them as whether they resolved their own parental guilt and things
Mm,
that were not about the kids. So, if they insulated them and didn't allow them to experience the world, then those kids were a little more fearful. They were a little less
mhm.
ready to take on challenges.
Yeah.
And really that speaks to a lot of it, I think,
Did you
for
work with
people.
not only the people who had lost their vision, but also with their parents when they were young, when you were working with younger people?
Not at that time. I didn't do that. We did a little workshops. I
Mm.
I I did trainings and workshops. I remember uh, putting together a workshop, a one-day workshop for parents and kids. And my colleague, we divided up like what we were going to be talking about. And I like fun. I like to come and I made this kind of this wizard costume to kind of come in and talk about like there's no magic wand, but yet we can do all these things. So I had like this, I got this like uh robe. I think it was like a graduation robe and like hot glued all these sparkling gems to it and had this
Awesome.
funny hat and it was just a lot, but yeah, talking we didn't do as much as I think we should
Yeah.
back in that
It wasn't
time,
set
but
up that way.
yeah, it's definitely something that I know now
I
is
love
important.
that. I love that. So, okay, and I apologize because we really focused in on this as I hadn't heard this before. So I was very intrigued. But let's move on from there. So you worked with that group for a long time, and
Hmm.
then tell me what happened after that and go on.
Yeah, so I stuck within that realm for a while. If anybody knows about Escanaba and the Moonlight was a movie that came out about when I was living up there. Lots of trees, lots of deer, and lots of empty spaces. And I said, I was in my late 20s and I'm like, I need something different. Most of my friends lived in Chicago, so I moved to Chicago. I worked for Epilepsy Foundation and then I worked for the Department of Veterans Affairs for a while.
Fantastic.
And so some pretty tough populations of people to work with.
Mhm.
And then found my husband, got married, had kids, and then decided to work in domestic violence and sexual assault. And
Because that's easier.
that's easier. Yeah, of course. And then foster care. So I
Yeah.
did that for a long time. And then, about a year and a half ago, I realized that I needed something different. I'd worked for everyone else. I worked for, so many different types of agencies and places. And I said, I need I need more control for me. I love my work. I love working with people. I love helping them to see things from a different perspective and how they can change once they kind of open up their eyes and mind to the change that is possible. And I wasn't feeling as fulfilled doing that for somebody else because they set some of the rules and things.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm gonna take it on myself. I'm gonna start my own private practice. And boy, was that talk
That's
about having to be resilient and have
Yeah,
a good
that's what
mindset.
we call that bold move, my friend. That's a big deal. I mean, it's a big deal for all of us who have been in corporate and left corporate and stuff, but like in the medical world, which you were a part of, are a part of, it's very regimented in what you can do and how you can do it and the paperwork and I mean, I don't have my personal experience, but everything that I know from doctors and nurses and therapists and everyone that work in that world, it's a lot to navigate, and you sometimes maybe feel like your hands are tied in certain ways, right? What was it specifically that, I mean, you mentioned that you wanted to like not have your hands tied as so much or everything, but was there anything specifically that you knew that when you had your own practice, you would do it differently than kind of how you had to do it when you're working for someone else?
Yeah, so, working with the clients and being able to set our path together with people who seek me out. So having more control over the type of clients, making sure that I'm a good fit for them, as
Mm,
opposed to, a lot of
being assigned.
agencies work, it's there's a thing that brings them to your door, like domestic violence,
An
or
event.
the child is in foster care, or the child is a foster child, right? And those are the things that open that door. But as a therapist, it wasn't always like, oh, well, what do you need? And am I the best fit? Whereas now, when
Mhm.
it's my own practice, I can sit down and I can talk with them. We can talk about what their particular issues are and go, okay, yeah, I'm a really good fit for you. My approach, my understanding of therapy is the right one for you because there's so many different ways to approach healing
Mhm.
and change. And not every therapist is the right fit for every person seeking
Yeah.
services.
Absolutely. That makes so much sense. I mean, it's the same in the coaching world. Obviously, we're all different personalities. You have different ways of doing things. And sometimes people are a fit just personality wise, and sometimes they're not. So when you were working for someone else, often you would get just assigned a person and they're your client, whether or
Yeah.
not you're a fit for them or not, right? Until you go through so many or whatever and you find that it's not going well and you have to switch out or something like that. But you have a period that you have to, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
even as the clinical director, I had, you know, I didn't have all complete control over who was coming in the door, right?
Yeah. Right.
There's always somebody above you making decisions. And that was the thing. I could, take a look at folks coming in and going, okay, but everybody had to be assigned, right?
Right. You can see like, okay, this seems like the best choice, but
Mhm.
you still have to figure it out from that's before any conversations even happened, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You
I
got
love
it.
that. All right. So you made that super bold decision to leave your practice. Did you do that over time, or like did you have to like cut it off and just take the leap?
It was more of a cutoff, take the leap. I I tell people, I I probably was already starting to see that I needed to make that shift a year or so before I did it. And but it takes time to
It
kind
is,
of disengage from a system like that. And
yeah,
so it took a while to, have those conversations. And then once it was like, okay, yep, this is the writings on the wall, it was, you know, it took, and then it was like, okay, quick, once I I left the agency in February of 2025 and I started all the lovely process that you all know if you're an entrepreneur of establishing the business in February of 2025 and started seeing my first client in April of 2025 and slowly building from that point on.
yeah, yeah, because it's not like other types of work where clients follow you because
Mm-mm.
they're in that system kind of for a reason in a lot of cases, right? Especially like you said, if they're in the foster system or if it's, they're getting supported through a shelter program or whatever it might be, like they're in that system. They can't just, well, I want to work with Elizabeth, so I'm just going to go over there. It's a whole
Mhm.
new world
Yeah, for
for
like
most people.
100, most people. I did let a few of the foster parents know that I was, because it's like, well, what
Yeah.
happened,
Where'd you
where did she go,
go?
right? And I did end up having one client come over after about 6 months or so when he aged out of foster care. So I
Mm.
see him
Well, that's
through
nice.
a program called A Home Within, which is a total nonprofit matching up kids, former foster kids, with therapists who agree to do the work with them for pro bono. So it's my way of giving back. It's my way of
Yeah.
being still connected to that community, and I'm such a proud person to have an opportunity to do that as I'm
Yeah.
establishing my own work.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I bet that kid just is so grateful to be able to continue a relationship on and not have to worry about, like you said, it's pro bono for, so like there's it's a program that you are still attached to, even though you left that world.
We could do an entire podcast all about the foster care system and the
It's a
importance
huge
of
deal.
continuity
Oh
of
yeah.
people in their lives. I could talk
Well,
about
and
it
then
all
I mean, for
day.
anyone, for all of us, continuity, for any kid, continuity, but even more so. I mean, I can't even imagine, how challenging it is to be those kids because,
Mhm.
it's hard enough to just be a kid. let alone that in an unstable situation like that.
Yep. Yep. I'm really happy to say that this is a young person who is probably, as much as he is a survivor and is really beginning to thrive as a
Mm.
young adult. And I
It's just beautiful.
I I'm happy to be partnered on his journey to support him.
Yeah, I love that. It's really beautiful. Thank you for doing that, because you never know, that kid could really do something in the world because of the support that he's getting from you right now. You never know.
I love that you said that because he is someone who wants to give back, be a motivational speaker
Fantastic.
to he's a brilliant musician, artist, and I have no doubt that we'll be seeing and hearing his story
Oh, it's so
in a few
beautiful.
years. Oh,
Mm.
yep.
It's just heart touching. It touches my heart so much. Okay, so we could, like you said, we could do a whole podcast on just talking about that whole thing and how amazing it is to support people who need that kind of help. But let's move on, because we're going to talk about you. Okay, so you started your practice a year ago, just over a year ago. I know you just celebrated your year anniversary, which is very exciting. And so talk a little bit about the entrepreneur side of the journey. I mean, obviously your work as a therapist has evolved a little bit because you have to, because of how you get clients and all of that. But talk about like the business side of leaving a system that was giving you everything you needed and creating your own. Talk about that a little bit.
So I would say that leaving working for others, I've done, administrative type work for those agencies and programs. I was a clinical director for foster care program, supervisor. I had early on my career with the folks who are blind and visually impaired, helped some people start their own businesses. So I knew some of those fundamentals, but gee, the doing it, being responsible for it myself, and then finding out all the little things. I mean, I was rapidly one of those folks who was like, what's going on? What am I supposed to be doing here? How am I supposed to be doing all of this? This is insane. And, uh, I'd always worked I love being a part of communities. I love having that ability to talk to other people and
Yeah.
to hear from them and to share. And I realized I'm kind of isolated. I found some, clinical groups to belong to for that therapist side, the piece that piece, but the entrepreneur side, I was like, I don't I feel lost. And I had signed up for something on Eventbrite, and your Gather community popped up for, like, I think it was the Biz Connect. And I was like, oh, this sounds interesting because you talk so much. I mean, the Gather community, right? And I was like, all right, let's give it a chance. And then from there, I just, I a whole world opened up of female entrepreneurs giving and sharing and connecting and growing together. And I from there I'm still learning a lot. I'm connecting with people, finding ways that help me to continue to be bold, to take those next steps, right? Because I thought I was just going to be in private practice. I thought I was going to do individual sessions, one-on-one, for the rest of my career, the next 25 years or so. And now I'm like, well, no, I think, group work, some group community, maybe some, you know, short workshop type programs, things like that. So I'm continuing to evolve this business in directions that I never anticipated when I started last February and
Yeah.
wrote my business plan and had this like model of like, this is what it's going to be. It's going to be,
Here it is
yeah,
forever.
Yeah.
Well, I love that. So what I want everyone who's listening to realize is that that's all of us. We're always evolving, right? Like the idea that, oh yeah, we wrote our business plan. People think like you write your business plan and it's like the Bible, or it's like this thing that's never going to change. And even the Bible changes because there's different translations. Okay. Anyway, but the point is that there's like, it's intended to be a living document, this business
Hmm.
plan that we created, right? It's a snapshot of our current vision and goals and how to's and who we want to serve and all of that. But if we're going to evolve as people and as a therapist, like we know we all have to continue to evolve, either going forward or backwards. There is no staying still in nature. So if we want to keep going forward, that means that things are always going to change. We have to keep changing that business plan. We have to keep changing how we envision the future, because there's no way that this one timeline that we created is going to stay the same. That's just not how the universe works. Things change,
Hmm.
you know,
Absolutely.
and a lot of times it's things that are not, we never expected it to be the way, like the direction that it goes. I love talking about unmet expectations, especially with anyone who experienced the pandemic, which is literally everyone, because it's all about unmet expectations. We thought our lives were going to be one way, and they weren't pretty quickly. And they're still not what we thought they would be 5 years ago, 3 years ago, two, like every year. It's such a change. And that's just how the world is. So if we can stay resilient and full of growth mindset, then we can keep growing, going forward, because the alternative is going backwards. And that's not fun.
Well, and it's impossible. We can't go back to the way, you can't put the
You
genie
can't
back
go
in the
back to the
bottle, right?
past. It's not a
Yeah.
movie. There's no
Yep.
time travel.
Not at all. And I never expected, like, if somebody had said to me last year, they said, in a year from now, you're gonna have a group program, and that's gonna be like half of your focus, and you're gonna be doing monthly, Eventbrite events for community, and you're gonna be doing, this, that, and the other thing. I would have laughed. I would have said, that's not me. That's not
I'm
my
not
plan.
interested in
That's not
that.
my vision.
Yeah, that's not the plan.
But I'm so glad that I do have that mindset of, keep keep evolving, keep going in the direction that the feels right,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Because if you get rigid and you get stuck in, it's painful. It is painful when you try to, like, oh no, this is not what I want to do, and
Right.
you can't
Well,
get stuck.
because then you're in that place of unmet expectations again, and no one, it's not fun. Like,
Mm-mm.
yeah, the opportunity to stay curious about what, how things could be different, because they're gonna be. So what could that look like? And what do you want it to look like? And how can you create the path instead of just get like carried away with the river?
Yeah, I love that curiosity, right? Be curious in what what's the next evolution of what you're doing. And that's where I'm at right now, is just, curiosity of, okay, I'm open to every possibility
Yeah.
that feels right, and keeping what's working, and then just letting things evolve and move forward. It's fun. I think part of being bold is to embrace, what's fun about your directions, like,
Yeah.
if it feels heavy, you're probably doing something wrong.
Yeah. Well, or it's just not aligned for you, right? You use
Right.
the word that I love to use, the word open. When you're open to what could happen, right? You're literally leaning into the possibility. And when you're closed, like it's so like ugh, stuck and stagnant, and it can hurt, right? Think of like making a fist versus going, you know, like opening your hand. Like that's just a much more expansive, beautiful way to think about what's to come. The other thing that, as you were talking about, like if it feels good, the word that came to my mind was aligned, because I've been doing a lot of interviews for our upcoming summit in the Gather community. And the word aligned is showing up in several people's conversations. And I think that that's a really big theme this year, 2026, is if you if you feel aligned with your path, with what feels good, and you're doing more of that, you're going to feel more fulfilled, you're going to be better at it, and people are going to resonate with it more. And so when we're open and we're aligned with the direction that we're going, we're going to feel like that's the right direction for us. It's going to feel
Mhm.
good.
Yeah, this fire horse year is one of those things where you can kind of get caught up in this momentum,
Mm-hmm.
right? And but you want that momentum to be going in an aligned path, right?
Yeah.
And that's the difference between, if you're caught up in it and you're going in an alignment versus off into, some path that doesn't feel right for you.
Yeah. Well, think
And
about horseback riding. You've been horseback riding,
mm-hmm.
right? So if
Yep,
people out there who have ridden, right, you know that a horse is a lot bigger than you and they can do whatever they want.
that's true.
The goal is to guide them,
Mm-hmm.
and they can go whichever direction they want. If you really want them to turn, like you could force it, but it's not going to be pretty, it's not going to be fun. It's like they could spin out and you could end up on the ground. But if you partner with them on that path and guide them, but also kind of allow them to take you and be open to how that feels, then it's a lot more of an enjoyable experience
I
and super fun.
remember being a, a a kid and being paired up with a horse. It was like a Clydesdale.
Mm,
I'm only a little over 5 foot tall. And so as an 8-year-old kid, you can imagine I was probably one of the smallest little people at the Girl Scout camp. And they paired me up with the biggest horse
awesome.
because we were in alignment. Like his nature and my nature aligned, and I could get on his horse on this horse's back, and we we connected and we went the right way, and
Right.
he listened to me. And but yeah, if you get onto a horse and you don't feel that, you're not in control and guiding them. Oh yeah, they're off eating the hay or something over the fence, and you're like, no, we're supposed to be on the trail. Come on.
Totally, totally. That's so true. I love that. Yeah, I love horseback riding. That's fun. Okay, my friend. So, the way that you're serving your clients now, you are still doing one-on-one work, you're doing group activities. Like, tell us a little bit about like this, like your name, right? Actualizing your best self. It gives us a vibe. Your thing says that it's providing in-person and telehealth counseling. So, you're doing online, you're doing in person. Tell us, like, what is, if you're looking for a client or someone's looking to work with a therapist, like how are you guys going to match up? What is your ideal client? How is it that you are uniquely serving them?
Sure. So as you mentioned at the beginning, medical care and, mental health services, there are so many rules and restrictions regarding licensure and insurance and all of that. So,
Hmm.
I can only serve someone with insurance and licensed therapy in the state of Illinois.
Okay.
I would have to be licensed in every single state the
Right.
person was in order to serve people outside of it. So what my group work is, and the free kinds of like once a month women's healing circles, those are educational. Those are
More on the coaching side of things, really.
on the coaching side of things, and it's about learning and understanding and applying to yourself the things that I know that I have honed over, my career to understand and to bring that to people so that they can apply it for themselves. And if they needed something more therapeutic, I can refer people to a provider in their home state or wherever. But so this is the new bold direction for me
I
of
love that.
understanding how you can coach and guide people on those mindset shifts, those understanding of you've got everything within you that you
Mhm.
need to make some changes. So people that work best with me, whether it's coaching or therapy, is people who recognize that they're ready for a change. They just don't know what it is that they need to change.
Yeah.
Usually it's women, kind of professional women, midlife. They identify as maybe allied or within the LGBTQIA plus community, for uh and they identify as some neurodivergent. They may recognize autism or ADHD or having
Or at least the
experienced trauma.
tendencies that direction, even if they haven't
Right.
been diagnosed, which for adults is very often.
Exactly. Exactly. It's they feel somehow, you know, not part of the typical society. They
Yeah.
recognize that they think or that they feel or that they act in ways that kind of set them apart from what they
A
see
little
around them.
unusual compared to their people around them. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that.
quirky, weird, whatever they want to call
Yeah, whatever you want to
themselves,
call it. Yeah.
I mean, that's me. I mean, I identify it just as much as I think my clients do. And so, talk about alignment, right? Like when you sit down with somebody and you're like, oh yeah, they get me, you know,
Yeah.
that's it.
Well, and that's really what we need most out of someone who's offering this kind of support, whether it's therapy or coaching or whatever, like that there's an understanding and uh I don't want to say camaraderie because that feels like friendly, even though friendship is similar in that way, but really an understanding like that they've been seen by the person on the other side of the conversation, whether that's a friend or a coach or a therapist or a family member. Like we all want to be seen and recognized as who we really are. I love
Hmm.
that. I love that.
Yeah.
So good. So this is like an evergreen situation. So I'm not going to ask you what you have coming up, but you've referenced your healing circles and different things. So obviously we're going to have the links to your website and everything in the show notes so that people can find you for whatever, works for them. I will say it's May right now. In October, you're going to be speaking at one of our events, which I'm very excited about. And, Elizabeth, I also want to kind of be sure to wrap up and thank you for, ever since you've joined us in the Gather community, you've been effusive with your praise. Is that the right way of saying that? Like, you're like, I love this. And it makes me so happy to have someone who, we've never met in person. We're across the country from halfway anyway, from each other. But that's the whole point. The same way that you're reaching people through Eventbrite or doing online group activities is the same reason why we're doing it, to reach people, to help people recognize that they're not alone in whatever they're trying to accomplish. And that with support and encouragement and friendship and being seen, we are all going to thrive more and be more aligned in the path that we're on. So I appreciate you because you've told me you appreciate us. We're one and the same. And it just makes me really happy to have you with us.
That's what, I really appreciate about these spaces that I've been introduced to. It's there's a mindset of abundance, not
Mm-hmm.
scarcity. And there's room at the table, there's room for all of us to thrive and to support each other. And when you have that mindset of we're giving and collaborating and just working to improve the overall,
The world.
community out there. It
Yep.
really works.
Absolutely. That's what I always tell people, when I first started coaching. It's been 14 years for me. And, I started off as a health coach because I had my own health journey, physical health journey. And I told people I didn't know that I wanted to change the world. I thought I just wanted to lose some weight. And, I had the weight part handled, but from that point forward, it was all about helping people be seen and realize that they can do whatever it is that they put their mind to, especially when they connect with other people so that they are supported by community.
Safety, connection,
Yep.
human beings, I mean, we cannot heal, we cannot thrive without connection. We're hardwired for it, so
Absolutely.
if any space that I can get into that is genuinely caring about community and about collaborating and about just connecting, I want to be in there and I want to
Yep.
be a part of it. And yeah, so I'm so happy to be in the Gather community. I've, been a VIP. I've kind of like moving my way through and up, and I've been in enough spaces to hear several other people talk about I'm a Gather community person for life. Like they're on the creator level and they're like we never want to leave. And I'm just like that's beautiful. Those are the testimonials, right? And
Yep.
they're the ones that like, okay, well, I definitely want to take that opportunity to become a VIP, and we'll see where we go from there.
Yay. Oh, I love that so much. Thanks so much for that. You made my day. Whoo, because it's a busy week. And so, you need those moments to lift you up. Okay. All right, Elizabeth. Well, I think we've come to the end of our time, but I will put all of your links and everything in the show notes. And, is there anything like any final thought you want to punctuate here at the end before we go?
I love connecting with people, uh even if you're not sure if something about my what I've said or talked about today resonates with you, connect with me. I have a 30-minute one-on-one, free connect. I mean, maybe there's just something that you've always wanted to ask or to find out about, but you're kind of holding yourself back. Contact me. I'd love to talk and just connect with you, see if there's something I could do to help you. And that's why I'm on the podcast and why I'm looking to be on more podcasts and just talking about who I am, what my message is, and how I can really just be of service to more people, because I think that's what we're all here to do.
What life's all about. Yep.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you again, my friend. I really appreciate your time being here on the podcast. And I just appreciate you being in the world and doing what you're doing because it matters. And so thank you so much.
You.
We'll
I
see you
make my little
soon.
heart.
Hearts. Oh, wait, we could do Zoom hearts because we're on Zoom for those who
Oh,
are watching. Boom.
yeah. Did you do it?
No.
Oh,
Oh, well.
well, I guess I'll just have to do it the old-fashioned
Do
way.
the old fashioned way. There you go.
Put my little heart up. Yeah.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much. Talk to you
Thank
soon.
you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Bold and Brilliant podcast. I'm your host, Tracie Root, and I want to invite you to check out the show notes, find out where you can connect with our guests, find out more about what I and the Gather community have to offer you, and be sure to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform. Thanks so much.